the NHL playoffs are finally here. So what does that mean? It's time to make my playoff predictions for this year's Stanley Cup playoffs. So I'm doing it on the NHL's bracket challenge. This way we have an easy way to visualize everything. So starting off with Colorado and Seattle. Now, I think it's a beautiful story that Seattle has gotten into the playoffs in only their second year, completely turning it around from last year. But I mean, it's Colorado, it's the defending Stanley Cup champions. Although they have a lot of injuries, they'll be without Landeskog, and Makara is a maybe. I just think Nathan MacKinnon, Rantanen, just the rest of this team is just too good to lose in the first round. I think Seattle will put up a good fight. I think it'll be a great series, but I have Colorado taking this one quite easily. I would say in 6 games. No. You know what? Yeah, 6 games because of the injuries. Now, moving on, we've got Dallas and Minnesota. Now, I don't know, just something about me is I always feel like Dallas are just frauds. I don't know where this Dallas hate comes from, but I just don't have the full utmost faith in them, especially how they cannot win in overtime. But they have a really good young team. Robertson with 100 points, and then you have Jamie Benn playing like he used to play back in his prime, so that's really good. And obviously they have Jake Ottinger, who is amazing in the playoffs. We saw that against Calgary last season. But something about this team is just, I don't know, I don't trust them to win a round. So I have Minnesota taking it with Kaprizov coming back. What kind of factor will he play in the series? Boldy is going to be a huge important piece, but I have Minnesota taking this one. And so moving on to Vegas and Winnipeg, I've seen a lot of people actually backing Winnipeg in this series, but I think it'd be foolish to not take Vegas in this series. Thompson looks like he's not going to be starting in the series. He'll be a backup towards the end of the series. It's going to be Brossoit. And Brossoit's actually had a good season. So I think that Vegas, with Jack Eichel, with all their Stevenson, all of their big pieces, Mark Stone is coming back. I think Vegas is just, they're going to win this series. Although Winnipeg have a lot of big pieces, I think for them this year is going to be make it or break it. Hellebuck, Connor, Scheifele, all great pieces, but I just don't think they have it, especially the way their season just fell off. They did manage to hold on to the wild card spot, but they're not very promising and they don't inspire me very much. So I've got Vegas going through. Now, Edmonton versus LA. I got to take the Oilers here. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I think the goaltending for the Oilers will have a huge part to play in the series. Stuart Skinner or Jack Campbell. I think it's Stuart Skinner who's going to be starting for the Oilers, but if he's shaky, Jack Campbell will probably take over, but I don't know how that'll last. Edmonton's been really good since the trade deadline. Ekholm has really helped this team. I think they've got that kind of veteran presence with Ekholm, but also now we have McDavid, who showed he can play in the playoffs along with Draisaitl last season. So I got the Oilers taking this series. Now, in how many games? So for Colorado, I said 6 games. Vegas, 6. Minnesota, I think this will be a 7-game series. And the Oilers in 6. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, the super stacked Eastern Conference. We have the Boston Bruins versus Florida. I mean, that's it, right? Is it... Do I really need to explain myself? You have like the Boston Bruins, the all-time greatest regular season team in NHL history, against Florida, Matthew Tkachuk. So I got the Boston Bruins, and I think this will be a gentleman's sweep. Toronto versus Tampa Bay. I think the moment a lot of you might have been waiting for. Toronto. I got Toronto. I had them last season in 7. This season, I'll take them again in 7. They've got to make it past the first round. I mean, there's no way this team makes the playoffs that many times. They have such a great team with Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, and they have some stable goaltending this season with Samsonov and Murray, who kind of play this weird thing where Samsonov's really good at home and Murray's really good away. So we might see that dynamic in the playoffs. But I mean, they have to win. I cannot imagine a world that, like, if they don't win, what happens to this team? Like, they need this series. They need to win this. Tampa Bay has not been the Tampa Bay that we're used to this season. So I think they'll take this one. But, it's the Leafs, and the Leafs jokes will be there. But can they finally exercise their demons and make it past the first round? We'll see. Now, for Carolina versus the New York Islanders, I have the Islanders in 7. Why? Because that Barzal-Horvat combination that we saw very briefly was just really good. I think Carolina lacks that spark, that Aho's really good, but they lack the X factor. And I think with Sorokin in net for the Islanders, he'll steal a few games. Whereas, you know, Anderson and Ranta or Kochenkov, I don't know if they'll be able to do that. Also, the Islanders, you know, they have playoff experience. They didn't make the playoffs last season, but before that, they made 2 Eastern Conference Finals, eventually losing to Tampa Bay both times. But yeah, there's something about Carolina that just doesn't really inspire me. I know this is their time to win, but without Pacioretty, Kasha, or Svechnikov, obviously the big piece, I just don't have too much faith in this team. And now for probably the series I'm looking forward to the most, the Devils versus the Rangers, and I'm slightly biased, but I'm gonna pick the Rangers in 7. You know, the Rangers are just absolutely stacked. They have a star-studded lineup, an incredible team with Shesterkin. If he can backstop like all the shots and really steal a few games, he'll be huge for them. The Devils are young. They actually have a little bit of playoff experience, more than most people would think, and I just have the Rangers beating them in 7. I think it'll be a fantastic series, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Devils won, but that's just what I'm going for. So I'll put in the games here. So Boston in 5, Islanders in 7, Toronto in 7, New York in 7. Now that's quite a few game 7s in the first round, right? That's 4, I think, but remember last year there were 5, so I'll take it. Now going back to the Western Conference for the second round, I got Colorado in this old rivalry between Colorado and Minnesota. Colorado just has more experience. They have more, I think, of a dynamic offense. I think they'll just beat the Wild, and I think the Wild, if they weren't playing Dallas, I'd have another team beating them in the first round, but they're playing Dallas. That's why I have them going past. Or else I don't think they make it past the second round. Now for Vegas and Edmonton, I have Edmonton going through. I think this is their time. I think they have an amazing team, and they've been playing really good. And they've had Vegas's number somewhat throughout the season. They really did, actually, in one of the games where they blew out Vegas. But I think it's just their time. McDavid, 153 points this season. There's no stopping this man. So I got Edmonton going through. And now back over to the Eastern Conference, I've got Boston beating Toronto. You know, sadly for Toronto, they'll make it out of the first round, but they're not going to make it past the second, just kind of like Florida last year. Yeah, Boston's just too good. There's no beating this team, in my opinion, except in the finals. You'll see. And for the Battle of New York, again, I've got the Rangers going through. I think they just have more depth, and they have probably equal goaltending. Sorokin was better this year. And so I have Edmonton beating Colorado, because I think Edmonton, it's their time. It's their time. In Colorado, will they be tired from all the games they've played over the last 2 years? I think they will be. And I've got Boston beating New York, sadly, and I've got Edmonton winning it all. The upset in the finals. I want to see McDavid win the cup so bad. So there is my playoff predictions for this one. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your predictions down below in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.